To hear more, listen to the podcast. Just search for Hancock and Kelley.
And welcome back to Hancock and Kelley. It was a horrific tragedy. Will the Janae Edmondson tragedy lead to a titanic shift in St. Louis's view on crime and the officials they elect to fight it? The St. Louis community was absolutely shocked by the tragic crash that caused 17-year-old Janae Edmondson to lose her legs. The Attorney General says the man who caused the crash, Daniel Riley, was out on bond, accused of 90 violations of his house arrest, and should have been off the streets. Now, St. Louis has embraced a progressive approach to fighting crime with more of an eye on reform. And they elected, of course, progressive officials to office like the mayor, Tashara Jones, and Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner. Could the support for that progressive view on things begin to wane? Mike, let's start with you.
Well, I hope, but I think the progressive view is winning the day. There's a big focus on bringing justice to our justice system, and that's one of the complaints as it relates to Kim Gardner. People are upset with the fact that she ran saying people deserved access to a speedy trial, that criminals need to be held accountable, that we should be doing away with holding people on some of these low-level offenses. Criminals are waiting longer with Kim Gardner in office to have their opportunity to seek justice. So, yeah, there's no doubt about it that the progressive thought process is definitely getting a second look right now. But I'm hopeful that we're going to start to hold our politicians accountable for results and not an idea.
Of course, I said, could it begin to wane? I hope you didn't think I said win. Wayne, what do you think, John?
Who knows? I mean, this guy was charged with armed criminal action. He had a handgun. He was released on his own recognizance. There was no bond. He was placed with an ankle bracelet, and he violated that dozens and dozens and dozens of times. Nothing happened. And that's by design. That's not pure incompetence at that point. You've got to proactively try to mismanage things that way. As far as the voters, ultimately it's up to the voters. And the voters of the city chose Kim Gardner by 63% more recently. They had a choice to make for the president of the Board of Aldermen. They had a progressive candidate in Megan Green. They had a law and order candidate in Jack Coder. They chose Megan Green. So the voters are ultimately going to drive this bus. And if they don't change, then the policies aren't going to change.
We saw a tectonic shift in New York City in the mid-'90s when they had two progressives, I think we can call it, Dinkins and Koch. And they got tired of that agenda. They elected Rudy Giuliani as the mayor of New York. Of course, crime was cut in half during his tenure. So it can happen, obviously, if something so tragic happens that absolutely shocks the voters. Could that happen with this Janae Edmondson case?
Well, it shouldn't be just this specific Janae Edmondson case. We've seen cases of murderers being let loose. Look, there's no doubt about it. New York was in some serious decline when voters finally threw it out. I hope we don't wait that long to stand up and say it's time to bring law and order back into our city.
We're in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
Also, John,
yeah,
what do you think? Could we see a shift away from the progressive agenda?
Again, it's up to the voters. You just
order.
had a primary for the Board of Aldermen and 12% showed up. And you're not going to change things when, and the folks that are most motivated to go vote are these progressives. And so if you're going to have a 12% voter turnout, that's what you're going to get. And it's up to the people.
Okay, we'll see how things look going forward. A historic vote in the city of St. Louis that votes on a new set of 14 aldermen instead of 28. It was truly the result of amazing legislation years back by officials and aldermen who passed a measure to cut the board in half. Now, I recall covering that back in 2012 when members of the board decided that elected officials should feel the budget cuts that they were asking voters to shoulder. St. Louis had lost 63% of its population, yet there were still 28 aldermen, and voters agreed with the majority of aldermen back in 2012 that it was time for half of them to go. Your thoughts?
Well,
where we are right now? Surprising, really.
They voted themselves a Mongo raise, number one. That's ridiculous. You know, in St. Louis County, it's got almost 1 million people. There's 7 members of the county council. 14 Board of Aldermen is still too many for 290,000 people, but it's better than 28. I'll say that.
All right, your thoughts?
Oh, I don't think there's anything else to say. You look at the comparison with St. Louis County and St. Louis City. We're starting the right-size government in the city of St. Louis, but we've got a long way to go. We need to cut this by another half as well.
What about the $72,000 that aldermen voted to double their pay? Your thoughts about that?
You even mentioned that part of the reason that they were cutting is that people needed to feel the budget cuts. Well, these first time that people who came and said, we're going to change the system of government, what's the first thing they did? They embraced that politician's lifestyle and gave themselves a raise.
What are your thoughts about that one? I mean, voters did not vote to double their pay.
Of course
they
not.
Just said, okay, we're going to cut the board in half.
And
what
look,
do? Double the pay.
We got
Why
all
not?
this federal money pouring in here, you know, because of the pandemic, and they can't figure out how to spend it, but they double their salary. It's a terrible look, but again, the voters may not make them pay.
All right. Hey, thanks, buddy. Still to come on Hancock and Kelley. A huge development in the race for the Republican presidential nomination, and then some. Former President Trump says he's going to be arrested next week. How would that shake up the race? We're going to talk about that in a moment.